Welcome to the Milestones Podcast, where we engage, inform, and encourage parents in strategic moments in their families' lives. Whether your family is close to the Lord or far away, this conversation is for you.
All right, well, welcome back to the GFBC Family Milestone Podcast. Thank you so much for allowing us to walk through on this journey that your kids will go from the time they're born till they pack those bags and head off to college. So we're in that basic stage of life where kids are kind of in that K-5 to 5th grade age, and we're going to talk a little bit about bullying, and we're going to refer to that because there are some important milestones that kids celebrate, but sometimes there can be kids in your kid's life or our kids' lives that maybe take away the importance of those milestones and celebrating those. So, Caleb, let's kind of start with you, and what does this kind of have to do, maybe speaking to parents and dealing with milestones?
Well, I think the tone would probably be set better to know if anybody's been bullied in here.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Ryan, have you been bullied?
I have been bullied, yes.
Amanda, you've been bullied?
Try to forget those days. No, I'm just kidding.
Heather, you've been bullied.
I have.
Are you bullied now?
I am by you.
No, I think the first time I think I was being bullied, I was probably like 3rd or 4th grade, and then it got really bad in 6th grade, and I just remember it was a new season for me of what this looks like, but also for my mom, like trying to figure out. I mean, you couldn't just type in the internet how to handle a bully back when I was in 3rd grade, you know? So some of that was just trial and error, and things that worked for me might not work for somebody else.
Sure.
You know? But it was one of those, hey, go tell your teacher, and after the 3rd time, then you can hit them in the face. You know, like that was what my mom told me, and
But I think, like you said, a lot of us kind of grew up at that same age where there was no internet and all that. So our parents might have to have called a friend or called the bully's parents on the landline that no one has anymore and all that, or go and talk to the teacher themselves.
Right? It might be, you might have to tell us what bullying is, because
absolutely.
I mean, bullying now, somebody might be like, man, he looked at me weird, he's bullied me.
Sure.
I don't know if that's
That
bullying,
was kind of my question. Like, do you guys see a difference is there a difference in bullying and then someone just being mean to you?
But I think kids kind of look at it a different way, and they can see that, or somebody looking at them a certain way could be a way of bullying. And because I'll tell you, you can't even really protect this in church too, because it's happened here at church, and I've had conversations with parents and kids in rooms kind of picking on each other or excluding someone. But bullying, the question you asked, Caleb, kind of what it is, it's really someone who is conscious that they are making an effort to attack someone or to make an effort to hurt someone, to maybe bring fear or terror to them, and they could continue to do it. So it's really someone making a conscious effort to go after someone else. And like we said, it could be different ways. I mean, Heather, what are some ways that kids could maybe experience different kinds of bullying?
Just generally speaking, verbally, physically, and relationally, which totally makes sense. I mean, we know from the Bible that we are mind, body, and soul. So, of course, the enemy is going to use all 3 of those things. And so... that's it.
It could be gossip, because this isn't just for parents in elementary. I mean, this is all of us here. We've got kids that are around the elementary age, some in middle school age, and high school age, and it could be gossip. It could be talking about each other, and those things can push kind of kids aside. So the reason we have this is kind of help the parents walk alongside this. All right, what is bullying? But then how can you as a parent respond to this or help your child through it? So yes, what you got, Heather?
Back to what we were saying, like what is bullying?
If y'all couldn't see, Heather was raising her hand. She was ready to jump in.
So polite to do that. I didn't want
she
to
had it up for
an
entire 2 minutes.
She
I
did.
did.
Yes,
I'm proud of me for being patient, honestly. I just want to highlight kind of what you said, what bullying is. It really matters what the thought process behind it is.
Sure.
Because especially younger kids and going into middle school, they may say something just say it, because they're impulsive.
Sure.
And if they really didn't mean it specifically, like it wasn't what's the word, when you convict somebody of manslaughter, premeditated, there we go. Not to compare the two, but
all right, that's another podcast.
That's right. That's next week's. But if something's premeditated, and they're planning it out and they're specifically targeting you, it's not just something that they impulsively said. I think that's a great way to talk to your kids and get the background
Sure.
and know if it's really a bullying situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Heather. Well, Amanda, we'll let you kind of jump in here. And as an adult, coming with your kids, and maybe what are some do's and don'ts for adults when it comes to responding when your kids come to you about maybe being bullied?
I think that we need to first think about the way we respond to our children too.
Sure.
I think that our kids learn a lot from us. And I think it's important for moms and dads to, when you mess up in any part of disciplining your children or anything like that, when we overstep, to apologize. It teaches our children to apologize to
word.
people.
Yeah.
So it's, prepare your kids, I think, is a good thing of knowing, like, hey, this is gonna happen probably.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Because in any age or stage, my kids have dealt with it.
Sure.
So it's just kind of like prepare them. Hey, sweetheart, be ready for some ucky things to get said to you because, unfortunately, we still deal with it as adults. Yeah.
Ucky things.
But, and this is something that you'll always have to deal with at some point or many times throughout your life. So, be prepared and don't, it's really, I don't know, it's really hard to say, don't, allow someone's words to hurt you or drag you down and so forth, because it really does.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
it sounds like you want parents to reenact what might look like, and the adults play the bully and the kids play, right? That's what you want. That's a good do for
Right,
kids,
yeah.
for adults, right?
Grab two Barbies and act it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
But I think, too, I just want to get an opinion from all of us because we're
Yeah.
all adults around here. Do you feel like it's more the kids' responsibility to handle this situation, to help them kind of grow and learn for it? Or do you think it's our job as an adult to be the one to respond to the bully or to reach out to the parents?
I think we need to teach our children.
Sure, absolutely. I agree on that.
Yeah, I think sometimes that the parents are coming into many situations too much to the defense of our kids because, yes, we do love them, but, even going to teachers really quickly without hearing everything, I think it's important for us to, that is a job for us to teach our children, how to be strong in it,
That's right.
how to respond, how to react, and realizing when we are in the wrong, we've said something hateful, hey, go back and say, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Sure.
I see that with you. We're talking about people that get bullied, but sometimes your kid is the bully.
Sure.
And I think huge red flags are what you just said of like, if you're constantly having to defend your kid, I guarantee you your kid's the bully.
Sure. Yeah.
If it's constant thing, it's not, I know every now and then somebody might be like, hey, your daughter, your kid said this, and it's just kind of out of the blue, and you're
Sure.
like, oh my God.
Get brought, yeah.
And then,
yeah.
but if you're, once a month, somebody's like, hey, your kid did this. Hey, something happened here. And, it's just every season, it's something like that. I'm just from 18 years of student ministry, I'll just tell you, your kid is the bully.
Yeah.
And you can keep defending them all they want, but your kid, what's the problem?
I love that input and to share that because I think it's good to hear, not only for parents to know that we're not just talking about your child being bullied, but also to keep aware of your child. Because I think, too, when we talk about adults, if you don't handle the situation, I think eventually your child can become the bully if you don't let them kind of stand up and grow through that. So awesome. So Caleb, since you kind of jumped in there, why don't you kind of speak from the kids' perspective of maybe what parents can help kids be their do's and don'ts when it comes to maybe handling a bully or how to respond to it?
So I have, for those you don't know, I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys and a young daughter. So I have 11, 8, and 5. And I treat my sons very differently than I treat my daughter. So I'm going to tell you what I told my sons, and I'll tell you what I told my daughter.
Absolutely.
Okay? So both my kids have, both my boys have been picked on at school. Okay.
Yeah.
And one, I explained to them, son, something you probably didn't hear in Sunday school, but this is honest truth.
Yeah.
And you might not agree in this room. That's fine. I'm still going to tell my kids the same thing next
That's
week.
right.
But anyway,
That's right.
is the Lord has called us to it says, blessed is the peacemaker,
Sure.
not a peacekeeper. You're not having to sit here and just try to find middle ground with everything. He says sometimes you have to go make the peace, son. And sometimes that is just approaching them and calling them out for it. Sometimes it's going to get physical, but
Sure.
you have to go make the peace. And there's repercussions for that. It's okay.
Mhm.
Like you can't just walk in and I use an example, real example, on a playground the other day, and a kid's been, pulling Finn's seat out. He's been doing a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
and he's been doing it to a bunch of kids,
Yeah, yeah.
and he did it to a kid that Finn just watched it happen.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to him, I was like, even that situation, son, you need to go make the peace.
Absolutely.
And I said,
Sure.
it didn't involve you. You just saw it happen to somebody, and it shouldn't have happened. And I said, when you go make the peace, what would you do? And he said, I'd go knock him out. And I was like, well, hey, son, okay, so let's just say that's what you did. Well, there's a repercussion for that.
Mhm.
Okay, like
That's good.
there's a repercussion for that, and you're going to have to go to the office. And even though we have a godly principal at where we are, and we have
Yeah.
godly teachers where we are, there's rules they have to follow. Now,
Sure.
they might not like them, but they have to follow them.
Yeah.
And so, hey, you're probably going to have some days off of school.
Sure.
Like, I'm not going to be mad at you, man. I saw how you defended it, and I
Yeah.
want you to do it because I want you to do that when you're 18 and you're at spring break somewhere and you see something happen that everybody's got their phone out, but you're interceding and you're going. And you got to train that at a young age.
Sure.
So I tell my boys, you got to be a peacemaker. You can't
Sure.
just be a peacekeeper.
Yeah.
And with my daughter, I just say, if there's a problem, you just come find daddy and I'll go fix it.
That's right. That's right.
Just wait till she's in middle school. Lord help us.
But no, I love that because I think that's important too for the parents to let their kids know that if you even see it from a distance, like if you're not the one that's being bullied, it's good for you to step in and be a part of the solution, or the peacekeeper, the peacemaker, that Caleb talked about. I think that's very important also for parents to let their kids know that it's good to also be aware at all times of things that are going around you and your friends, your classmates. So speaking of the story that Caleb shared there about his, and Caleb kind of mentioned earlier, just to let people know, here we are with our kids. So maybe you've got some personal stories to share, or from your own personal life, or maybe from your kids. And I guess we can kind of share around the room like Caleb did. I've got 2 kids. Tinley is 8 and Jake is 5. And haven't heard anything of bullying yet. But Tinley did tell us the story the other day, and this was about something in the gym or something, and playing, and some girls said, hey, don't want to play with you or something like that, and things like that. So
It was probably my daughter.
well, I know it wasn't your daughter, but the funny thing is the way we kind of handle it with Tinley was, well, did you say this maybe another day? For me as a parent, I want to really hear the whole story. It's good to talk to them. But may parents know, don't just jump to a conclusion or immediate reaction. It's good to really, because kids will expand the story or, make up this or that. Not to say they're not truth and we're supposed to listen to them and honor that, but we kind of wanted to get the truth out of Tinley. But for me personally, I did have a bully in elementary school, and he was actually a new kid that came in, and I guess I was the smaller, maybe a little more athletic than he was, just meaning faster than he was and stuff like that. So you're playing King of the Hill or something like that. And I can still remember this. And he jumped up there because he didn't lose. And he literally wrapped his hands around my throat and was like choking me in elementary school. But me, y'all know me. I know the church thinks I'm a very extrovert, whatever the word is. Extrovert. Thank you. See, I don't even know the word because it's not what I am. So, but I'm very introvert. So, when growing up, I made the choice as a child. I didn't really tell my parents a lot about that, because that's just what the route I took. So it never traumatized or anything like that, or went too far or anything like that. But I can recall that specific story. So there's a real life story there to kind of share with your parents, to give you an idea of maybe what kids go through and what it looks like. So anybody else, any personal stories or
To follow getting choked? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Well, Heather, you mentioned there were 3 types of bullying. Was it, did you say mental?
verbally,
Verbally, physically?
physical, and then relational?
So I'm going to tell you a story. You tell me which one was it. Okay, so
All right.
I remember 6th grade, I felt really good about what I was wearing. And I walk in, it was a see-through blue shirt, the half zip up, okay?
Yep. Yep.
3/4 zip up.
Yep.
Blue shorts and blue tennis shoes, okay?
All right.
Felt real good about it. walked in. Some people were making fun of me in my first period class in 6th grade. I remember going to the bathroom and just kind of being like, I'm just going to go to the stall back here and just kind of sit in it for a little bit and just get away from everybody. And they started making fun of me, and then they wet paper towels and they just threw them over the top of it until my see-through shirt was soaking wet. Right?
Oh,
So
man.
Yeah, the mom in me wants to cry right now.
well, I'll be honest with you, it made me tougher. But anyway, so I remember getting out and looking at the guys that did it, and they were all laughing and like, they knew me. They were calling me by my, I mean, they knew who I was, and they wanted me to laugh with the joke, and it hurt, you know. And I remember just that if I can think of one time of like being felt so humiliated and low, it was then, you know. And that was also a weird time too, because I was like, you know, I'm getting information from my mom, but I really want a dad to tell me what to do, and he just wasn't around. You know, I was like, Mom, you're a woman. I'm a man, Mom. You know, like, how do I handle this? You know, but I wanted some advice from a man, and anyway, I didn't get it, you know, and so but my mom gave great godly advice. I just remember if I could. A tragic moment in my life, that was it. So I would assume it fit all three.
Well, let me ask this. So right now, if that happened to your kiddo, what would you tell him now? Because I actually am. I mean, I'm not dealing with kind of what you say, but or what you're talking about. But there's a couple of things. One, now I want to be very careful with names of my kiddos, but one of my girls, she's dealt with a lot just throughout for different reasons. And then one of my boys is going through something now, and I just try very hard to do the best I can to give advice and try to explain, you know, of course, these guys are probably hurting, or, you know, they are dealing with things themselves or whatever. But sometimes you really are looking for like, but what do I tell them? What am I supposed to say?
Because did your friends maybe feel like it was just a joke to a friend? Like, did they realize they were bullying you?
You know, I had known them since I was in kindergarten, and we sat next to each other, and in my mind, we were friends.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I look back; they were not my friend, and they did not consider me a friend. I mean, now 2 years later, I was their friend. You know what I'm saying? But like at that point, I was a joke to them.
Sure.
And I was the butt of the joke. But I thought they were my friends. Yeah. And, you know.
So your question is how would you respond to a situation like that today?
Or, I mean, even if it is something that's, say, just verbally, you know, hey, you have girl shoulders. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but when you're a boy and you're hearing that from guys or girls, and even if you say, well, you know, stand by your dad, you look exactly like your dad. When they are in front of these kids at school, I mean, it's still kind of like, well, I'm getting hit with this, but what do I do in the middle of it? What am I supposed to do? I try very hard to just be there, listen, you know, the best that I can. But what do you tell the kids to do? What are they supposed to do? And I think, however we can, what are some practical things that we can give the parents? What does that look like? Because a lot of times, you know, we may have these conversations, but what can we practically walk away with saying, how can I do this? What do I need to do for a verbal thing or emotional thing?
And I don't want to say what I'm about to say, you're behind if you're not doing it. I don't want to get to that point, but it's one of those of, if you're trying to handle the situation while you're in it, and why it's going on, and the answer you think is going to come when you're in the middle of it, that's probably where going to be the most chaotic, and where you're going to hit and miss so much. It's almost, you got to set the standard before it gets there. And, you know, some of that is, you know, every night I'm going to tell my daughter, hey, you're beautiful and brave. You're beautiful and brave. You're, you know, every night I say the same thing to her over and over. I tell my son something different, you know, and so, like, but just take Holland, for example. You know, I'll say, hey, you were created by the Most High, and He has made you beautiful and brave, and He said He's never going to leave you. And I tell her that all the time, because why? At some point, she's going to be in 8th grade, and that's the meanest human being in the world is an 8th grade girl, you know? And so that 8th grade girl is going to look at her and tell her she's fat or she's ugly, or she's going to tell her something. And I just, for the longest time, I've told you the truth of the Lord. And I cannot control how you feel and what you do, but I can build something up within you to let you know whoever this weirdo is over here that's calling you names and doing all these things to you, like, that's not the sovereign Lord Most High who has looked at you and created you that way. And so if you want to believe her, you're more than welcome to. But I will just tell you, there's something more over here. And it's like, if you don't instill that before they get there, not saying it's just going to automatically, oh, you call me a name? Well, the Lord's called me great. So, like, I mean. And
I think what you're saying, like, it instills things for a long time, even as adults. I think that's very, very important.
Because, somebody's listening to this right now thinking, I'm trying to figure out how to not get bullied at work. Right? And we're talking about their kids that are trying to write down things like, I'm bullied so bad by the person next to me.
Well, listen, before we close up, you got anything else, Heather?
I do. This might sound like it's going to contradict what he is saying, but it's totally not. I think also validating what the kids are saying. Like, if they had an insecurity that they had not actually spoken out loud before, and then someone notices that about them and uses it against them. Yeah. Just validating their feelings and being like, hey, if you don't like your shoulders, my knees were really knobby when I was a kid, and this is how it turned out for me, and this is what happened. Just validating where they are in that moment, because especially, like, I have a 6th grade girl right now, and Lord, let me tell y'all, it
is hard.
I mean, we're not even through the first semester, and I'm just like, is happening? Why are you crying again?
Yes.
Like, but it's a great way to teach them not to lead with their emotions, A, but B, it's a great time to show them they're not alone in whatever the circumstances are, because you want to teach them when they're younger they're not alone. That way when they're teenagers, they're not walling themselves off to you, because that's going to be their first instinct anyways. Yeah. I don't want to tell mom. I don't want to do this. But if you keep it open and you get in the nitty-gritty and the really uncomfortable stuff right away, then you allow them to express their feelings, to have those feelings, and then handle them in the proper way. And that's when, what Caleb said really comes into play. You're already instilling those things, and you can kind of turn that around. Right. Another thing I would say, this is something I'm dealing with Annie. When she repetitively comes to me about a child, I'm like, okay, you're in the 6th grade now. If you don't stop hanging out with that person, it's on you. You've made the conscious decision every single day to go sit with this person at lunch or go you're subjecting yourself to this. So I have no more advice for you. We'll pray together about it. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Like, I don't want a friend like this. Like, we've given you the tools to pick out your friends and all these things. And at the end of the day, it's on you, baby.
I think that's a great way to finish for us to say, hey, as a parent, how to respond is just continue to speak God's word into their lives every day, show them value, make sure it's important for them to know that it is their choice that they make of who they surround themselves with and who their friends are. But most importantly, God's love never changes. It's always the same. And obviously, we do not accept bullying around here at this church. There's zero tolerance on that. And we are honored to share this with you, parents. Thank you for hanging in there with us. I think we could have talked about this for quite a while, but for this 23 minutes or so, we thank you all for hanging in with us, and thank you for allowing us to help you guys walk through this milestone, because it's important for kids to celebrate things that they experience in life and not to let somebody bring that down, but to realize that they have value in God's eyes. So thank you guys so much. You'll have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you at the next podcast.